I keep the sound down here in my basement studio, so I don't know what they're saying. I really don't want to know what they're saying. But did I just see Bob Theismann, a special guest, occupying my old seat that I held for 25 years on Mountaineers Live Feed simulcast show? Bob Theismann. I got to tell you, good guy, veteran jocks agent. I did not have Bob Theismann sitting in my old chair on my bingo card. They should ask Bob to stand up and spin around a little bit, because my man will strap on some tight designer jeans now. Mark Patterson here. You are in my dungeon, emanating via YouTube. And I don't have designer jeans on because I don't wear designer jeans. I do wear cargo shorts, and it's really, really hot outside. 92, 93 with the heat index, which I think is junk science, don't you? Much higher. Have no fear, though, because we used to run when it was hotter than this, and Mountaineers got full intention to go ahead and conduct a race card tonight. The mountain main is fast. The turf is firm. I went to sleep last night and had a weird dream that both parts of the front double went to 1-9 shots. The thing paid $2.80, which has got to be unprecedented in the history of Mountaineer, if not horse racing. And then to conclude the card, John Brown, of all horsemen, wins with a 55-1 shot. And just to rub it in a little bit more, that had been away from the races for more than a year. Did this actually happen? Is this a great country or what? I mean, really, fantastic. I'm not in love with tonight's program. And when I say bad card, I don't necessarily mean bad horses, because there are some decent races tonight. I just mean I can't really find a lot of toehold places to sink my opinions into. Usually, I will do my due diligence anyways when I'm wagering, watch the races closely, watch the board. I want to watch the races for future reference when the horses run back to begin with. But also, I want to watch the board and see if maybe somebody's mispriced, in my opinion. That's not quite as simple as it sounds, though, to not have strong opinions any place on a race card and think, okay, well, somebody who's got a shot's got to be under bet, and I'll jump in, because just because a card confuses me, and there's no shame. I got into this whole thing last week. There's no shame in admitting you're confused. Most horse races should confuse you. They weren't designed for predictability. It's a chaotic event. But just because a card confuses me doesn't mean it's going to confuse the wagering public or the all-knowing caw, because they will make sense out of races that I just cannot get a grip on. So I'm a little dicey about whether I'm going to bet on anything tonight, but we'll go over the races and have some fun, and I'll respond to your comments. And it was pretty lively in here last night, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. And I'm not criticizing Bob Theismann. He's a good guy, really nice guy. And has probably got some stories to regale them with, because he has worked in different facets in the industry as Mr. Bob Theismann. But they should still have him stand up and model those tight designer jeans. Okay, we got some comments here now. Welcome in, Todd Hall, Wayne Blanchard. Great to have you, man. Anthony Conch, my man, Kevin Price. So it's going to get lively tonight. Our first two races, I think, are on turf, right? Yeah, they are. You know what it's cold here in my finished basement? It's 90s outside, and it's sweltering. I mean, it's sweltering, baby. But I'm underground here, so I actually have my electric heater on, believe it or not, so I can find it bearable down here. What a change in temperature when I come downstairs here in my house. The first race, and a couple of features you're going to see on your monitor there. Misconceived morning line prices, the worst misses of the night, in my opinion. And I've got a lot of experience as a professional odds maker. I did the line 40,000 races worth for more than 30 years at Mountaineer as their official odds maker. So I know wherever I speak. And I'm not picking on anybody. I don't even know who does the line at Mountaineer. I'm not going there tonight. But I want to bring some of my expertise into play in the course of this broadcast. And one of my features is the worst morning line price points of the night. I'm going to highlight there on my red banner. And I've got two of them up tonight, and they're just way out of whack, especially race number 5, Tiergarten, 10-1. No. Tiergarten's going to be much, much, much lower. And for that matter, No Cash refunds. If I could only find two, then the lines maker has raised their game tonight at Mountaineer. No cash refunds in race number 7, 8-1. Don't you believe it? No cash refunds is going to be considerably lower than 8-1. And my other feature that I have up there, race flow keys. And I'm not talking about who's going to fire, who's not going to fire, and a speed loaded 4.5 furlongs, who's going to get the jump on who. Now, when there's something that's going to tilt the balance strategically up in front, or a race flow might or might not favor a given running style, then I want to highlight it and put it on the banner that runs across the bottom there. And I've got, I think, 2 races highlighted tonight in which tactics, strategy, and who does and doesn't flash speed, I think might have a critical influence on the results. So moving quickly along, first race, 5 furlongs on the turf, never 2. This is that ever popular 12-5 claiming level. And we've only got one grass winner in here, and that's the 1-horse, My Balboa. And it's a pretty potent angle, believe it or not, and get off at prices. The only other horse in here to ever finish on their ticket on the grass, I think, is number 2, Cascabel. And they ran 1-2 last year at an allowance last September on turf at the same 5 furlong distance. Now, My Balboa is a 6-year-old, officially a never 2, but has won 4 times. This is a West Virginia bred. Now, My Balboa took a tune-up last year to get up to speed, was away 14 months at one point in his career, which I don't dig too much. Makes me wonder a little bit. Although My Balboa has only been off the expected period of time, they want to get him on grass, and you know it. So he is going to wait until turf season to come back at Mountaineer, and they didn't lay him up until the mountain went down for the winter there. So there's nothing suspicious about this layup. Nothing suspicious at all. He got down to $4,000 last time, but that was on dirt. He's 1 for 1 on grass. I know he's a 3-time winner on dirt, and probably should have performed better than that as a 3-time winner on dirt. But he is fresh here, and most of the barns try to have them ready first time back on turf, because turf opportunities can be limited. So I wouldn't rule it out. My Balboa on the inside. Cascabel, number 2, Juan Pablo Silva. He's got a good strike rate with horses that have been away from the races. This is almost one of his specialties, is it not? Cascabel ran big on turf here last year, September the 16th, and missed by just a neck. The other local turf trial wasn't all that hot, and I'm not sure this horse has ever proven that he's any better on turf than he is on dirt. Cascabel, but drops down to the 12-5 level. Silva's good off the bench. This horse has a grass placing, a prominent grass placing, and there's a scarcity of those in this field. So Cascabel could well be a player. The 2 with turf placings down closest to the inside, and they should both flash some speed. Little Red Bodette, when I glanced at the board, is getting played like nobody's business. Little Red Bodette, better, I think, than the Ohio form looks. Kept some stiff company, and some of those races did not play out in Little Red Bodette's favor. As I'm going to slip on over and check my wagering platform screen out to see how far we are away from post time. Still 6 minutes, so we're good to go there. Little Red Bodette wins at second asking at Thistledown, no less. Jay Bernardini doesn't run a lot at Thistledown. He's king of Mahoning last couple of years. So this one wins at Thistledown and then goes to Mahoning and gets in tough water a couple of times. It was in with a horse named Pupil, who was crazy quick. Pupil, very, very fast, and took Little Red out of his front-running game there. Little Red Bodette still upped his buyer to 54 on November the 25th. So that's a good performance. And it kind of showed me some promise at 31-1 from Little Red Bodette. When he comes back at his next one, he pulls into a very tough never 2 life field. Those were good horses, and Blistering in particular would come back to win and has a ton of early foot. So no disgrace at all in that effort from Little Red Bodette there. First time blinkers and first time Lasix. I mean, no disgrace. Now, I expected more. So did the public on May the 24th there, although it was kind of a funky night because the rail was golden, not just an advantage. It was golden. And some horse after sunrise who didn't figure to got the jump out of the gate, grabbed the golden rail, and took the play away from Little Red Bodette, who was as low as 5-2. I thought the race was probably a toss for Little Red Bodette. The bias and the strange way it played out considered. So when he gets on grass, I'm thinking this horse might run really well on turf because the Dam ran 7 times, I think, on turf, if I remember correctly. I checked it out on a formulator and was part of the exacta in 6 of those races or 5 of those races. And the sire, his second most successful offspring, won 9 races on the turf, including a couple of graded sprints on turf. So Lou Red Baudet's got a grass pedigree there. And last time out, for some reason, Whitaker snatched up on the reins coming out of the gate, and I couldn't see why. When I watched the head on it, it says steadied break. I don't see why the jock steadied him, but he did, Lou Red Baudet. And Lou Red Baudet seemed confused for the first couple of furlongs, what he had underfoot there, and really started to grab that grass. And uncharacteristic of Lou Red Baudet, came flying late and was very wide, which hurts you on turf. So if he can get his speed shoes back on here, Lou Red Baudet, then he could be a big player. And I think he might be better on grass based on what he did there on June the 16th. I have no idea why he was steadied so sharply coming out of the gate or why he dropped so far back there, Lou Red Baudet. But the players love that kind of line. They love a horse with his kind of speed that gets on grass for the first time and closes like gangbusters. When they see an excuse in the short comment line, he's going to get bet, Lou Red Baudet. He's definitely going to get played. I think he opened at 2-1 and he's 3-1 right now. Interesting race here. Number 5, Most No is 24-1 up there. And I really can't make much of a case for this horse. He's been on grass twice and didn't do anything. One Step Beyond, number 6. Remember the old show, One Step Beyond, which was kind of a companion piece for the Outer Limits. Outer Limits was sci-fi. One Step Beyond was straight up horror and straight up terror, right? It was scary. One Step Beyond. I used to watch it when I was a kid. One Step Beyond. This is another silver runner, One Step Beyond, who's never been on grass. Not exactly a turf pedigree, in my opinion, for One Step Beyond. One Step Beyond, though, is fit. Ran last time at Prescott on the synthetics and did not disgrace himself at all at the same 12.5 level. Probably a better field than this. The winner came right back to win again. One Step Beyond is drawn well here, outside a couple at least of the primary speed, so we might get some kind of a trip. This horse is a winner at Santa Anita as recently as March, and he's got a history of some willingness to pass, or at least attempt to pass horses late, which might mesh nicely with the post position here for number 6, One Step Beyond. And he's 5-2, so I can't do that. First time on turf, I just can't. Number 7, Sonny the Great. Man, it's cold down here. That's why I have the electric heater on. You had a lot of dealings with Mr. Bob Fiesman, a pretty good jocks agent and a really nice guy. I trained horses for a while, and a lot of guys that train, and when it's not going good, they'll pick up somebody's book if a rider makes it available, and that doesn't work out, and they'll shift back over to training when they get a hold of a client and stuff like that. Colorful guest, I'm sure, for Mountaineers' current simulcast show. Number 7, Sonny the Great. Off a 56 length loss, how was he as low as 7-1 last time? Because there were some other horses in there to choose from. I thought there could have been some inside money, and Sonny the Great opens 4 on him. We're coming to get him. I think that's important to note. He did not break all that alertly in either of his outings. Those were both longer sprints, so you shorten him up to 5/8. So I'm not sure he's going to show the same kind of quickness and roll-up speed that he did last time. And also, he's not going to beat this field off that performance. And who knows if he wants the turf or not, Sonny the Great. A lot of questions there at 8-1. I'm going to stand down during the post parade and then come back. Interesting comments tonight. Hello, guys. Todd, Scott, Michael, Peter, Andy, David, Chris. Banger's in here. Wayne's in here, as is Stephen. Somebody said it's so hot my laptop is melting. I picked up on that comment. And somebody's getting involved in the poor morning line price points at Mountaineer and wants to mention a couple and toss them out there. And I'm checking it out. And I think you're probably correct, dude. He mentions, if I can find this, post again. Third race, come to the dark side, 5-2. Yeah, I think it's too low also, David. The only reason I didn't jump on that one is because he's going to be perceived as lone speed in that race. And lone speed does take some support. Although that other thing that's on the class drop is going to be pounded to smithereens in there. But yeah, I think you're right about that. And I also almost put Morning Boss on there too, because Morning Boss is not going to be as high as 10-1. So those were astute observations on your part, my good man. And also, I'm not going to pick on morning line price points if the race is riddled with scratches, because that changes the numbers and changes everything around. You guys know what I mean. So getting back to the matter at hand here, number 9, This Is the Life. This is where we're at. This is the Life. Wins at 4.5, all the way on top. And that is a maiden special weight race at Charlestown. Used to flash some speed at Laurel on the grass. And yeah, this horse is grass placed as well. I think probably should have done better on the class drop last time at Charlestown, down to 15,000 to Life, because this horse is a dirt winner and a maiden special weight dirt winner. So I'm not sure where they're at with him right now. And Mike Jones just has not shown the same magic this year that he has in some seasons past. He'll get a hot hand at some point, but I don't know. Right now, if he's a barn, you really, really want to focus much in on. A shot, though, for This Is the Life, no question. You know what? I can make a case for the 1, the 2, the 4, the 6, and even the 9 a little bit in this race. I don't think the 10 has much of a chance. I really don't. Race number 2, just a little preview there. This is hardly earth-shattering, but I think by far the likeliest winner is Broisky, who's going to be bet out the yin-yang. And if Cool Cat Mandu is quick enough to go out there and top or compromise Broisky, and that's really tough to predict on Broisky's a turf footing there, Cool Cat Mandu, never having been on grass, then a horse that I might look at a little bit with off-the-pace possibilities is number 8, Bust Unloose. But Broisky, I think by far the likeliest winner there. I do like a couple of horses later on I'm looking at and thinking about maybe jumping in on with a bet, and we'll talk about that in due time, folks. Yeah, they were crossing over onto the grass right now. It is 0 minutes to post. Too many possibilities in there. I'm not going to bet this race. So that one stays official as is. 9 horse came over rather sharply, but I thought he might have been clear of the 6, and maybe Negron overreacted. I couldn't tell. I would need to see the pan shot a few times. The stewards have shots that we don't have. I don't think Negron got along with that horse a lot. The 6, I really don't. I think he overreacted. I think the horse spooked. And if you notice closely in the home stretch, every time somebody threatened to get near Negron at his mount there, the horse would shy, or Negron would get tentative and stuff like that. Those two just did not seem to get along to me in that race whatsoever. And the 6 may well have been best there. After that early incident, made up some ground. But Little Red Bodette gets the job done at 8-5. Probably the likeliest winner in there. Good turf pedigree, and ran a ton against his typecast style as a front runner. His first time on grass last start when he was snatched up at the beginning. So came back to fulfill that promise. And you see horses like this that won't pass anybody on dirt. I don't think it's all about the kickback either. But on turf, all of a sudden, they can pass horses like a champ. It was always going to be low, though, off that pedigree, off the troubled trip, and off the wide voyage, too, last time, and getting checked at the start. There was never going to be much value. And he was 8-5 in there, was Little Red Bodette. Watch the replay on the 6 horse there. And regardless of whether you think the 9 should have come down for the 6 horse checking like that, and I think it's borderline either way, watch through the home stretch very closely. I think some of that was the story. Is One Step Beyond seemed to spook either the horse and or Negron every time another runner threatened to get near number 6, One Step Beyond. And it was very subtle and very slight, but it was there. I don't think jock and horse really got along there. That horse may have a heavy dose of winning jock in that race, Arroyo, in his future. Number 6, One Step Beyond. Second race, also 5 furlongs on the turf. And it's going up to 98 degrees tomorrow. And in case you're wondering whether or not Mountaineer will run, we used to run when it was 96 in the afternoon and 95 and stuff like that. I'm not sure it ever topped out at 98, and we would still run. Talk to Lori Denoto, who's an absolute expert in all things HISA. She's the former chief steward of the whole state of Ohio and still adjudicates a lot of the HISA drug violation cases. And she told me they never talk temperature when it comes to HISA and potential cancellations. They only talk about the heat index. It is the heat index. And she also says that as a steward, and it's up to the state vet whether or not the races get called in conjunction with management. But the state vet's going to make that call, believe me. And Denoto told me as far as HISA and any maximum or minimum temperature guidelines, she said she could never pin them down. She said they danced like Bojangles when she would attempt to pin them down, and just how hot it had to be before the races needed to be canceled, or how cold for that matter. Anyways, 98 degrees tomorrow. It's still in the 90s this evening. 5 furlongs on that firm turf course for race number 2. And the chalk in here is pretty obvious. It's going to be Vroisky from the inside. Vroisky's a 3-time turf winner. And boy, there's a lot to be said for that. Vroisky's pretty good on dirt, but better on grass, I would have to say. Vroisky last time was second to Button Box. Button Box is a legend, or at least a future legend on the turf here. You guys that bet Mountaineer with any regularity know who Button Box is. He's up there in years, and I was like 10 or 11 or something like that. But he's almost never been beaten at 4.5 or 5 furlongs on the grass. Button Box. He's unfrontable, and you can't catch him either. So with the wants to lead type, excuse me, please. My bad. This is really uncouth, but I keep this big honking microfiber towel down here, which hasn't been washed in days. If I need to wipe up a spill, my iced tea or something, or to blow my nose. No couth here in the dungeon, baby. That's why it's called the dungeon. So Vroisky was in tough with Button Box because Vroisky can't get the lead from Button Box, but he was quick himself, Vroisky. And a man that would probably earn him the early lead here, in which case it'd be all over, I'd have to say, because it was a huge second to the legendary Button Box there. And Vroisky's got some other grass wins to his credit as well. If Vroisky's going to lose this race, I think the only scenario that could make that happen is if number 4, Cool Catmandu, took Vroyski's path, got the jump on Vroyski and took his path because Cool Catmandu is some kind of quick. This horse came from Charlestown by way of Finger Lakes to win 3 of his first 4 over the mountain main and showed nearly unfrontable speed. No matter what the lead went in, he was there, either on top or just a head behind in second, Cool Catmandu. This is a horse that can run 5.5 furlongs. He can also obviously get 4.5 furlongs, which makes it kind of puzzling to me that Wilson Langley chose to run this guy twice at the 2 furlong distance. Something doesn't add up there. I can't believe he was that sold on Cool Catmandu's 2 furlong quickness and acceleration, because that's a whole new ball game when you take a 5.5 or even 4.5 furlong front runner and shorten them up to 2 furlongs, and you're going to find out then who's really quick on the draw and who's not. And you're picking a fight in cases like that. I'm just not sure that I'm real encouraged by the fact that Langley opted for those 2 furlong races, when at least ostensibly you would think he would have run Cool Catmandu 5 or even 5.5 first time back off the bench with full confidence in his horse. He didn't know. And it's almost like those 2 furlong races can be career killers. Sometimes there's no returning from the dreaded 440s. Kevin Patterson, master of all things speed. I was really good friends with him. And we became friends because we shared the same last name. We got to joking around about it, what he would call the mountain and make his entries and stuff like that. And somebody said you got to make the curly sound when you blow your nose. Mark, I was trying not to blow it. I was sneezing, just to make a fine point of it. Anyways, Kevin Patterson told me it's a mental thing, that when a horse runs 2 furlongs, they get so wound up about it, they can no longer revert to a standard racehorse distance, even 4.5. I think it's more likely that once they do run 2 furlongs, it's because they can no longer get a longer trip, or because they're so proven quick that you're going to make money with them and saying, hey, we'll take on all comers at the 440. Cool Catmandu has never been on grass. I don't know how he's going to take to grass, and I'm just not sure about those 2 furlong placements. He should be super alert coming out of those races, though. And it could be Vroyski's worst nightmare to the first call here. Just to make things a little bit complicated, huh? Still in the paddock, 5 minutes to post there. Number 4, Monge Soleil, resounding winner. First time back there. Don't be fooled by the drop in claiming price, though. Don't be a novice. Don't be a greenhorn, because that was a non-2 life race, and the bar is much higher here under wide open conditions, even though it's a lower claiming price for Monge Soleil. He can still scoot, though. Was sub 21 and 4 to the first call last time, and I guess that potentially makes him dangerous, although with a 2 for 28 record, and that being his only ever grass placing, I think he'd be pretty hard to land on board here, number 5, Monge Soleil. The potential to hurt Vroyski, I would suppose. That would be possible. Number 6, Mo Caliente. Mo Caliente, 6-1. He has been running 2 turns on the turf. He wins at 7.5, and that's inflated right there. That's a 12.52 life, and again, a lesser field than this. Marshall Godsey, you can bet, brought it back dead fit for his off-the-bench try there, because that's how Marshall Godsey rolls. Mo Caliente, horses like this that want to get the lead and go 2 turns, when you shorten them up and they can't get the lead and they've never learned to pass anybody, I don't want them. I really don't. Mo Caliente, with his mere 2 career wins and route speed, I think he's bringing a knife to a gunfight in here. Number 7, Dichotomy. Dichotomy, almost the female version of Button Box. She's 8 for 12 over the Mountaineer lawn, Dichotomy, but she's 10 years old now. She's taking on the boys. Now, turf races are a rare circumstance where the girls can beat the boys. 2 furlongs would be another, and state restricted races, yet a third situation in which the gals might be able to beat the boys. I don't like her chances here, though, because she's never been anything but a 2-turn horse on turf. I mean, she really hasn't, Dichotomy. She's getting long in the tooth and hasn't really been herself either of the last 2 seasons. Number 7, Dichotomy. I think she's overbet at 5-1. I'm pretty sure she's overbet. More to talk about, numbers 8, 9, and 10. I'm going to stand down for the post parade in case you guys want to watch the post parade. Number 8, Bustin' Loose. Bustin' Loose has run 6 times on turf and only one minor placing. Clearly prefers dirt, but does have that one minor placing and had some troubled trips and maybe was over his head in some of those other grass attempts. And Randy Bailey is very clever with his placements. Be careful before you scoff at wherever Randy Bailey spots a horse up at because he's really sharp. Bustin' Loose found a closer friendly setup last time on June the 9th that went his way there. But this is a capable horse at a variety of distances, and I'll bet he's running late here and probably at a price. Bustin' Loose is 12-1 up there. Number 9, Marcella Monarch, 21-1 on a horse that's 2 for 2 on turf and both efforts over the Mountaineer turf. He's an 8-year-old, though, never 4. And this is not only his first start since September, but he's only run twice since 2023, and those races were complete debacles. I tell you, debacles. Parade of Fears on the outside. Parade of Fears didn't show me much in either turf attempt here. And it seems like enjoyed his hot 15 minutes of fame at Mahoning back in February and March. Can't pass horses, and I'd be surprised if he's quick enough to get the drop on a couple of these. So I think he's overbet at 6-1. 4-5 on Vroyski. Is Vroyski the likeliest? Yeah, absolutely. Am I going to take 4-5 on Vroyski? I don't think so. Hopefully, I can find something a little better later on to bet. At better value. Because although Vroyski, I do make him the likeliest winner, clearly, I don't think he's a cinch. I would stop short of branding him a horse who's extremely unlikely to lose. I've never bet favorites that I don't deem extremely unlikely to lose. Yeah, that was a problem with taking a short price on Royski. You don't want to bet on any favorite that might not have the race shape in their favor. And Royski was at ground zero there with his front running style against the quicker Cool Cat Mandu. Doesn't mean Cool Cat Mandu was going to take to the turf or run anything like he did last year, but he's quicker than Royski. So that puts Royski in a very awkward situation because Royski's fast in his own right. He's going to get straight up sent. He's going to lose that skirmish, and then he's going to have to make another move. And you don't want to take 6-5 in that proposition. So Royski runs big, but Cool Cat Mandu just a hard sent gun for all he was worth. And Barrios politely, and Parker gets a lot of respect from his fellow jocks, and rightfully so. Did you see him look over his left shoulder just to make sure that he could clear Deshaun without pinching him off too tightly there? And he was on the faster horse, and he knew it. And Cool Cat Mandu, who's now 1-for-1 on turf. I'm not sure that he ran anything like some of his better dirt efforts there. Cool Cat Mandu, either because he's better on dirt or because he's not as good this year as last year. But quickness carried the day there. That was simply who was fastest on the draw down the backstretch. And Cool Cat Mandu quicker than Royski. You take Royski and give him Cool Cat Mandu's post, and he's going to be able to just force the issue whenever Parker pleases. Just go up and lean on Cool Cat Mandu, concede the lead, set a length back, whatever, 3/4 of a length, and Royski's certainly going to win it. But down on the inside of Cool Cat Mandu, he's at ground zero. He's in no man's land, Royski. Nobody else really fired much there, did they? They were all kind of closing in late because Cool Cat Mandu was coming back to the field. And again, possible reasons for that. Maybe not as good as he was last year. Maybe not as good on turf as he is on dirt. And also, he was so hard sent, just gun for all he was worth. And he was paying a slight price for that in deep stretch there, I think, Cool Cat Mandu. All dirt from here on out. The third race, 6 furlongs, never twos. These are $4,000 claimers. And this race is very murky to me. Different possibilities and different looking forms in here. Not cookie cutter past performances at all. When I glanced at the odds and I see with the other Scarrett horse that was supposed to run the night, and I wanted to watch him run in the nightcap, that horse that's made almost $500,000 and made almost $500,000 and won 24 races, Classic Mo. I know Classic Mo really good from the silver simulcast screen. Wanted to watch Classic Mo because you don't see many 24 race winners around these days. And he is eligible to run in Ohio, by the way, at the age of 12. Classic Mo. It's not like he had to come here. And he didn't come here tonight. The outfit is in town, though, with a bit of captain. Now, the rider comes in tow, which sometimes means a horse is live when a ship-in jock comes for just one mount. When you look at a form like a bit of captains, though, you want to know two things. You want to look at the trainer's local record and see how he's done on previous visits to the mountain. That'll give you a good gauge of how live his horses are when they run here. And wouldn't you love to know if the horse is already posted in the rec hall, the backstretch recreation hall with the pool table and the hot dogs and the beer and stuff like that is for sale? Because a lot of times it's a one-way ticket. Win, lose, or draw, they don't plan to take a horse like this back to the point of origin with them, a bit of captain. I've got a feeling a bit of captain might be live here. For one thing, the rail's a good speed-producing post out of the 6 furlong shoot, and this race needs an early leader in the worst way. And with fresh legs, a horse that's been on top going a route once or twice might flash some sprint speed, which a bit of captain has done a couple of times in his career. So they take the trouble to ship here and gets the inside post, and they bring the jock in tow, who's not that hard up for mounts. This is the trainer's son. So some of the signs, some of the arrows point upward for a bit of captain like this horse might be live. But you look at the form, it is desultory. It's just lousy. And a bit of captain, just 1 for 23. And Scarrett really doesn't have much of a track record in Mountaineer. So we don't have much to go on there either. So I'm not taking a short price on a bit of captain, but I think he's a possibility. This is a race replete with possibilities. And this race just typifies why I don't like tonight's card. And not because these are bad horses, because the entirety of tonight's program is not lousy. Some good races coming up later on, and maybe a horse or two that I like. And we'll get to that in due time. So I'm going to check the board out and see how many minutes to post here. My man saying hit the like, hit the thumbs up. Thank you so much, my man. Bango twins. Bang got twins. I don't know how to say your name, man, but I call you a friend. I think if I can get 500 subscribers, I can get on a paying basis here on YouTube, which I really need to do because I got to recoup the cost of all this equipment. I probably got like $5,000 in a studio, probably 4,000 or 5,000, something like that. State-of-the-art stuff, which I don't know how to man or operate. But I don't do the super chat thing because I'm not saying I never will, but only a small portion of that money comes to your host. YouTube scarfs up most of it, I think, you know. And I don't want to make you guys pay to make your comments. Comments give the show life. Let's see how many minutes to post we have here. Get in the paddock. And it is 3 minutes to post. Number 2, prime shopping. You see mediocre forms like this come from places like Charlestown all the time and win at Mountaineer. Beats the conditions to the tune of 1 win. A West Virginia bred who's already scored twice. That doesn't mean a whole lot that a restricted horse has won one more time than the rest of the foes, because I've seen him come in here with 4 or 5 wins and still 2 life eligible, and they've already won the 2 life a couple of times. But there's that for what it's worth. He is a 2-time winner, prime shopping. Prime shopping, you can see the tail off there. He's been claimed twice on the class drop, and he was heavily bet both times. At least ran third when haltered in March there, late in March. But you can see the speed figs, 50, high 40s, mid 40s. Now we're down to the 30s. So this train's not headed in the right direction anymore. It just isn't. And I recommend that you check out trainers' records with their respective owners, because it's really important, because different owners spend different amounts of money, and some of them have livestock, some of them don't. And some of them even train their own horses behind the scenes. Believe me, it's common. And Don Blankenship, good horseman, but his record drops down with Marvin Austin, the listed owner. So a possibility is about as far as I'll go at 7-1 with prime shopping. I do like Don Blankenship as a horseman. El Cozan, number 3, is 3-1. It's been away since December. When he broke Maiden, I remember that race at 2-5. He almost had to win it, I think, on a wide closers track in the fall, and nobody to beat. Just not sexy enough for me to get on board with him. First time out since December there. For El Cozan, a possibility, but not my first option in here. My man Hubert Gaffney says a huge trainer upgrade on the 2. He must know Tyler Shanley better than I do. I get what you're saying, Hugh. Sharp guy there. I'm not so sure the owner is not the real trainer in this instance, though. So I think that muddies the waters just a little bit. Number 4, Come to the Dark Side. We had somebody comment this should have been one of my misconceived morning line price points, and my big banner across the bottom there. And I agreed that he's going to be higher than 5-2. Come to the Dark Side. So let's check it out and see what the price is here. And I'm going to give you your flowers, my man, because I'm sure you're correct. The price is 5-1. Yeah, he's higher than that, 5-2. Broke Maiden very unimpressively. I know 8 3/4 lengths look sexy, but wide margin wins when the speed fig doesn't match up. Not good. Not a good thing at all. That means a horse has a case of the slows and needs soft competition to win it all. Those were soft splits, not a productive race, the whole 9 yards. Come to the dark side most recently. I'm more intrigued. There was a little bit of early foot in there. It was a shorter race than the night 6 furlong distance. And he vied early at least and recorded his best ever buyer that might represent some improvement from him. And a lot of times horses that retreat a little bit in the late stages after dueling or chasing at 5.5 or even 5. When you run them 6, they see some speed relief and they get brave. I'm not sure this horse won 6 furlongs though. Come to the dark side. Number 5, Short Time, even money. Short Time off that second place finished alone speed step Noski, who also won impressively at Mahoning this year. And the second time before that, 12-5 the Nasty Nate, who's way better than these horses. And now third start of cycle drops down to $4,000. Now I know he's been down to 4,000 before. That was before he stomped his field for 75 and ran second both starts this year for 12-5. This is not how most outfits think to run this horse back for $4,000. So I'm a little bit leery of it, and I would prefer to see something more recent from Short Time, who's been away a couple of months. So again, I wish I could give you more on Short Time. This trainer's pretty good off these little layups, but on this kind of a drop, I don't know. And if your reasoning is he's been down to $4,000 before, so why not? I get it. And there is yet a third possibility if I want to get really in depth here. Vasquez may have been waiting for a 12-5 or 75 to fill with the 2 life condition, gotten frustrated when it didn't go for him and said, the heck with it, I'm going to run for $4,000, in which case look out for Short Time. In a good way. I hate to sound like a broken record here, guys, but I'm not going to force opinions, and I'm not going to offer up horses that I supposedly like promiscuously when I actually hate a race. And I hate this race. I absolutely hate this dark, murky race that I just can't seem to attach any meaningful opinions to. If this is your first time watching me, then I am most appreciative. Definitely need the eyeballs. Thank you very, very much. And you may have ascertained by now, this is not a tout show. I'm not putting up picks and special long shot picks and mortal lock picks and straight from the horse's mouth selections. Is not what I do. I'm not knocking anybody that does at all. There are a lot of good touts out there, but it's just not how I roll. I'm an analyst, and I'm going to break the races down and go back and forth with you guys and hopefully supply some local knowledge and some enlightenment about these mountaineer races. And you know what? If I plan to bet on something, I'm going to make it pretty clear to you guys. And there's no way you're not going to know when I'm done with my commentary who I like and who I would probably or will bet on. Last time we came up with some good priced winners, including an 8-to-1 shot and a couple of other decent prices. And it was pretty plain to you guys, short of me putting a sandwich board over my huge cranium, who I liked and who I thought was the best value bet in the race. But I'm not going to put selections up, at least not now. There may come a time when I'll give previews of upcoming races, interior and later legs of the horizontals that you guys might be interested in playing. But again, if this is your first time watching me, then please be informed. This is not your traditional tout show. I see it 1, 3, 5, and 6. No, it's not what I do. It's not how I roll. So short time, and you're thinking, off those two buyers and superior competition, and he was second for a higher tag in his last couple of races. He's not supposed to lose there. Yeah, but I could have done without his near 2 months away from the races, and I thought the drop was, I don't know if it was shaky or not, but it concerned me enough to not take 4 to 5. I'm not taking 4 to 5 on short time. I'm just not. If I'm going to bet a 4 to 5 shot, I'm going to find something that's cinchier than that. He didn't win like a 4 to 5 shot either, did he? Of course, you don't have to beat a field like that. So we're coming up on what, the 4th race? We've got our first dirt affair of the night behind us, correct? Yeah. And we're coming up on a better dirt race. 4.5 is the distance here. This is a starter optional. They've either run for 8,000 or less in the last 2 years, or they go for the tag here at 12.5. And we're going to mix here some of these starter horses, and we got some tags as well. And we've got some accomplished horses in here. Number 2, a little bit of that was 5 for 8 last year. And in fact, at one point won 4 in a row, and 3 of those at the Mountain, and then an upset at Charlestown. Would not enter to be claimed in one of those allowance optionals for the 25,000. That is stiffer competition than the Knights, that's for sure. Honey Bella's been a good horse. Morning Boss is well known to the local players as a good mare. Hard Knockin' mare, who's been part of the exact at 12 out of 15 at Mountaineer. Miss Fussy Pants, she just keeps running. She is just made out of hickory and just keeps trying and trying and trying and amassing the placings and wins her share for sure. Miss Fussy Pants, this is a good field. So we'll take it from the top here. And again, I don't want to turn anybody off, but there are some questions in this race that make it a little bit tough for me to really sink my teeth into. And we'll get to that. Glory Hallelujah on the inside. Tuned up a couple of times at 2 furlongs. That worked with Cool Cat Mandu, right? So it's going to have Glory Hallelujah on tilt to flash her ace speed, huh? Really good trainer who hasn't had the hot hand this year at all. Glory Hallelujah is a winner at 4.5, twice on dirt and once on turf. So this is her cup of tea, the 4.5 furlong thing with Glory Hallelujah. And I'm going to bet they ran her the 2 furlongs twice because there weren't any 4.5 furlongs filling for her. So Glory Hallelujah, she beat the Morning Boss. And Sweet Queen Bee, who was pretty good, going 4.5, and she's in front clear the whole trip back in November. And she can be pretty tough at a short trip like this. And she can really jack out of the gate too. Very quick coming out of the gate. I would say Kevin Gonzalez having a good season. Maybe not quite as good out of the gates as Bailey Weatherly, who was on Glory Hallelujah for those wins. Number 2, a little bit of that. Man alive, she was invincible last year with all that speed and just kept winning and winning and winning and topped it off with that imposing score versus far better at Charlestown. Did a little bit of that. And then they go on this traveling show with her. picking fights far afield there. Some kind of stakes race at Delta Down. She was still good to run a 65 buyer at 38-1 when she couldn't get the lead, going 5/8. Then she's in an open allowance. But after that, it starts to look a little odd that she's not showing her former early foot. And it's pretty obvious by this point that she's not quite the horse that she was, a little bit of that. Now, how much she still has left in the tank is tough to tell because she's not an open allowance horse. And that was the competition she faced at Charlestown 2 starts back. And who knows if she even likes the turf. She was up the track on turf last time. Is there a jock change here? Or did Wesley Ho make the scene to reunite with a little bit of that? Because he was a regular rider last year. And I think she's a possibility, and I would not go to sleep on her. But I'm just not sure how much she has left in the tank in terms of early zip and overall ability. Nobody ever said it was a simple game. And believe me, when the key points in any race are more clear to me, as they were last night in several instances, and you regular viewers know that, I'll sing it out loud and clear. I like this race. I like this horse. I'm pretty sure this is going to play out this way. But again, muddy waters in this race. And I'm going to check the odds out right now. Four minutes to post, so we got time here. Miss Fussy Pants, number 4. I think she can be effective at any distance known to man. She came here as a 2-turn Charlestown sprinter and then went to Ohio, and she's been good at 5.5 and especially 6. I would not say 4.5 furlongs is in her wheelhouse, Miss Fussy Pants, but I've seen her close as she did last time in a short sprint on the turf. And she's the kind that if she can get the lead good, if she can't, then she will not turn her nose up at dropping back and coming on late. I will say a couple of things about Miss Fussy Pants, though, who's 2-1, just 2-1 up there. I think that's too low on Miss Fussy Pants. For one thing, her last win, I know that she was as high as 6-1, but it was almost like a free lunch because 23 1/5, almost a fifth, and almost 47 are soft fractions out of the 6 furlong shoot at Mountaineer. And when you let Miss Fussy Pants get the lead or get a big piece of the lead, at that kind of a jaunt, you're not going to beat her. Very different scenario here. And I'm concerned when I see a horse run at least 23 times in the long wraparound campaign. At what point is a horse finally going to be knocked out and over the top? And she looked it on April the 19th when she mixed that clunker in there at 8-5, Miss Fussy Pants. So she, again, is not the easiest horse to gauge, which means I ain't taking 9-5 on her. I don't want 9-5 on a horse that's got to pass most of the folks to begin with at a mere 4.5 furlong distance. How many starters in here? 5 starters. So it's not like there's going to be all that much traffic in front of Miss Fussy Pants. But on paper, she's probably going to be last, the first call here. Miss Fussy Pants. Moving along, Honey Bella, the 5, 7-2. Honey Bella's a real gamer. Jay Bernardini horse, so I think showed Canterbury and maybe some Florida when she came here and could get 2 turns and then morphed over into a sprinter. Has taken some suspicious drops at times on her form. It was not herself this winter at Mahoning. I know her very well, and I kept a keen eye peeled for her. Over the cold weather months during her Austintown campaign, she's not supposed to get thumped at 1-2 by the likes of Heartful Hope and that no speed race on March the 31st. That was not the real Honey Bella. And she had been taking some negative drops before that, Honey Bella. Now, the buyers went up for Treehorn, who's a master horseman. But again, just to complicate things, and you can make of this what you want, those were soft-looking fractions that she had the lead on last time. Now, I know she was outclassed, but still soft fractions. And she's another horse that lacks 4.5 furlong quickness. She's going to have to come from behind. But the same as with Miss Fussy Pants, Honey Bella has no compunctions about trying to pass horses because she's a gamer. Honey Bella, another tough read in here. Paul Murray could be a role player. I know she hasn't had the lead on just about her whole hard copy form, but I think her speed is still lurking in there somewhere. She's very quirky. She's been a multiple winner at the 2 furlong trip. And don't you remember when she almost beat Larimar, when Larimar was just invincible in the open allowances here a couple of years ago? And she scared Larimar to death in a 4.5 furlong race And most recently, for what it's worth, and this is not alluded to in the short comment, Paul Murray completely missed the break and made this hero recovery run, did Paul Murray. So I think she's going to be moving at some point here. You're going to hear her name called a few times, and she is potentially a role player here, the great Paul Murray. Which brings us to Morning Boss, and I'll wait for you guys to watch the post parade, and then we'll touch on Morning Boss. As somebody said, I should have listed in my misconceived morning line price points, and buddy, you were correct because she's 10-1 on the line. It was never going to happen. She is a 7-2 up there, Morning Boss. So questions abound in this race, and I'll run through the questions because I think it's that kind of race. Glory Hallelujah. Can the same 2 furlong prep plan tune her up for a gate to wire win as it did Cool Cat Mandu earlier? And I think her fate might hinge on how much of a little bit of that's former speed the 2-horse actually still possesses. If she's still got some of it, she could be a nightmare for Glory Hallelujah early. And also, as far as Glory Hallelujah goes, and a little bit of that as well, can the quirky Paul Murray better nail the break in here and become a pace factor and potentially throw a fly in the ointment for Glory Hallelujah, and or a little bit of that. And the 2-horse, very tough to tell how much she's got left in the tank. She's not been flattered by a lot of her placements, not just the turf, but that stakes and the open allowances and stuff like that. And the jock comes, and that's kind of encouraging. This is the trainer that campaigned her to such a great season last year. But he's so cold this year. He's almost like an auto pitch. Kent Knudsen, Miss Fussy Pants. How short a price do you want to take on her? To probably have to come from dead last at a 4.5 furlong distance. And also, is she finally going to be over the top at some point ever? Honey Bella, how do you read her last race in which she outran the 14-1 odds for sure, but was part of very soft fractions there, if not outright on top? And what about those negative drops? And how much has Treehorn resurrected her? Honey Bella. Paul Murray. Can she break better, the quirky Paul Murray, and perhaps make some kind of an early move? And number 9, Morning Boss. Morning Boss. She fits here. She likes the distance. When she wins on April the 28th, it was the darndest thing because the racing office went outside their template, I think for the benefit of Morning Boss, and wrote it, which has started for 4,000 in 2024, 2025, or 2026. And you guys know my stock and trade was as an assistant racing secretary / racing secretary at times. And I'm intimately familiar with conditions. They were my livelihood. And our template was to only go back 2 years, but they went back to a 3rd calendar year, clearly to include Morning Boss under the header. So she walked her beat there at 4-1 at a race that was specially drawn up just on paper for her, Morning Boss. This race was not drawn up for her. And I'm not sure that effort with those fractions would carry the day against this field. Morning Boss. Now, she missed a break last time, but then again, she's supposed to like grass a little bit. So I don't think she's the easiest to call either in here. Morning Boss. I've seen her run well from wide post before, though, when she goes up and leans on him early. And she's got a really strong second quarter. The second quarter is her forte. So looking at the board, because as I mentioned earlier, even in races that I consider to be inscrutable, I want to stay on alert for something that seems really mispriced and might offer value. But I also added the caveat, just because a race confuses me doesn't mean it's going to confuse the tote board. There are a lot of races that the late money solves that I had no idea which way to go. So I'm going to pass it. Good luck with you guys. To you guys. Maybe that should have been one of the situations that I was talking about a couple of times earlier tonight when you're confused by a race, but you keep your mind open for a horse that is probably spotted too high in the wind pool. And that might have been Glory Hallelujah because I didn't like Morning Boss there at all for various reasons. I think I made pretty clear. So if conceivably I gave the 1, 2, 4, and 5 all a shot to win it, well, the quickest of that crew is probably Glory Hallelujah. We're only going 4.5 furlongs. And Glory Hallelujah is the biggest price of any of the contenders in there in an even Steven race. So maybe Glory Hallelujah was the bet. If you cashed, then congratulations. I think we got a new angle, right? The twice at 2 furlong prep plan worked for Cool Cat Mandu, and it works here for Glory Hallelujah. 3-1 earlier on the Cool Cat and 5-1 on Glory Hallelujah. There was a little bit of that, and this is a question that intrigued me going in. Still has some heart and still has some try, but did not have her former acceleration tonight as Glory Hallelujah got away from her in the early stages. And that was not about which speed horse can stay game and hang tough and keep chasing. It was about between the 1 and the 2 who was quickest on the draw. And it was clearly Glory Hallelujah. It seemed like they were out there forever. Glory Hallelujah was trying to get beat. And there's a fellow Speed who was gaining on her gradually coming down to the wire. So I know when these horses run back, the thinking is going to be, okay, unsuitably short distance for Miss Fussy Pants and Honey Bella. The way that race played out up top, though, with the 2 horse hanging so tough after getting outfooted with a one-dimensional front-running form, I wouldn't be too impressed with a failure to mount quite a rally from Miss Fussy Pants and or Honey Bella there. But that's just my initial takeaway before I look at the charts and watch the video a couple of times. There's Terry Crago. You could see him in the win picture there, bear an uncanny resemblance to Wilford Brimley. That is Wilford Brimley. That's who he is. That is Wilford Brimley. I don't know what his game is or what he's doing as Mountaineers paddock blacksmith plus training horses, but Terry Crago is Wilford Brimley. Speaking of movies, we watched The Mummy last night, Little Bear and I, the most recent iteration, which just hit pay-per-view, where this 5-year-old girl gets infected with an ancient Egyptian curse, and it looks pretty fascinating. And then they find her in a sarcophagus like 5 years later. So it's getting a little too dark at this point, even for me, not for Little Bear. He loves this junk. But then it just really amps up the sicky stuff beyond tolerable. Just incredible. They must have got to a point with a script where they thought, okay, we got nothing going on here. So we better see if we can grow somebody out, because at some point, this little mummy girl takes her grandmother, throws her out of an upstairs window, spoiler alert, lands on the family car with all the other family occupants in the vehicle. So Granny lands dead on the hood, slides off the hood, much to the horror of the little family that's in this station wagon looking vehicle, at which point all the neighborhood dogs attack Granny and begin to rip her flesh apart. So that's not enough. In this version of The Mummy, a couple of days later, when they're holding a funeral for Granny in their own home, I guess, which they do all the time in movies, this little mummy girl claws her way through her bedroom floor, drops into Granny's coffin, and begins munching on Granny again as the family recoils in horror and says, why us? Why us? I've never seen the likes of this movie, and I don't recommend it. I definitely don't recommend it. Man, did they go for the gross out scenes. Way over the top. Some of the silliest stuff imaginable in The Mummy. Fifth race, 1 mile. No winners twice in 12 months. These are cheap fillies and mares. They're going to go 2 turns. Not a good field at all. Tiergarten's a horse that I mentioned. It's going to be much slower on my banner there. It's going to be much, not slower. It's going to be much lower. Is that a Freudian slip? It's going to be much lower than 10-1. Tiergarten, I think, is going to be the favorite here. I think that's just a hideous morning line price there. Tiergarten's 2-1 already and not unlikely to go lower. Tiergarten ran on turf last time, and she's a turf thing because all 3 of her wins are on grass. But some of those dirt races, man, if you check out Santa Anita, open 10 there when she runs without the lead, chasing the pace, loses by just 10 lengths. And what about Los Al, where she's pushed all the way in front, runs a 65 Beyer to hold on for third. And she has won at the distance, only on grass has she done it. So if she shakes loose here, which seems almost inevitable, then she may just kind of flash back to some of her better form, even on dirt here. Tiergarten, and most recently on turf. I know she likes turf. I still grade that performance high because those are sci-fi fractions, even on Mountaineer's bouncy, extremely quick grass course, because the horse that was in pursuit and chasing for all she's worth, Take Wings, has 4.5 furlong speed, is really, really fast. Take Wings. So I think those splits are legitimate. The Tiergarten was pressed to. So again, I know this ain't turf, but that is a darn good performance from Tiergarten last time. And this big drop into a bottom condition race, if this doesn't light her fire to control it the whole way, I'm not sure what will for Tiergarten. It was never going to be 10-1. That was just never going to happen, right? The second favorite right now on the board is number 5, Vintage Sparkle. Vintage Sparkle, the story here, Juan Pablo and Jamie Poole. Jamie's Mutner's HBPA president, and he and Silva have never been going to lunch together. They've always had issues and kind of gotten a claim battle going back and forth. And each one drew some blood in their interactions at the claim box. And Silva came out on top with Vintage Sparkle, we claimed from Jamie Poole, and won 4 races with last year, including a starter allowance job or 2 with Vintage Sparkle. Vintage Sparkle has been sold privately off all the good form last year. Why? Oh, why? And Silva's not the conditioner anymore. And Julie Stansberry is not exactly known for having horses dead ready. First time back off the bench. So Vintage Sparkle, let her beat me. It's not the one that I want in here for different reasons. Psychology of the sale, the change of hands, and the fitness factor when it comes to Stansberry. And there's number 4, Summer at the Shore. She ain't sexy, but she shows up and she lands somewhere in the super ticket. Third start of cycle last time, though. She seems set up for one of her better efforts. Instead, she gets mauled 15 lengths worth by a mediocre horse. When you see what Bankbuster, boy, don't watch The Mummy. Don't watch The Mummy. The only credit I'll give them is they were so inventive in doing things that were so taboo, so incredibly violent, sick, bloody, and disgustingly taboo. That it definitely differentiated the movie, but not a movie that I would ever watch again. Ever watch again. Seriously, a little mummy chick throws Granny out the window onto the hood of the family car with the family inside. Granny slides off the hood because it's slippery from her own blood. The neighborhood dogs attack and begin munching on Granny. And the family's just watching this stuff. So at the end, they finally, and I'm going to spoil this completely, they finally get the mummy's curse passed on to one of the bad guys or bad gals. So the family then lives happily ever after. Yeah. Like you're ever going to forget that stuff. Or a little girl clawing her way through the floor of her bedroom and landing in the coffin with Granny. You can't make this stuff up. Summer at the Shore last time, you got to be thinking that's a real monster that mauled her by 15 lengths when she was favored. Summer at the Shore at 8-5. Not a good horse at all. They did that to Summer at the Shore. So your next thought's got to be, well, there had to be some kind of a bias because that horse that beat Summer did go gate to wire from the one post. So you're thinking, okay, the track was golden rail and speed, couldn't lose. Wrong again. Because that winner, Bankbuster, was the only front running winner on the whole card. And I'm thinking extreme inside speed bias after watching the opener, but it wasn't. So we can't find that excuse for Summer at the Shore, who just ain't sexy. Does she have a shot? Yeah, but she's not sexy. Oh, no. Some support on the outside for Princess of the North, and a couple of scratches bring her in a couple of holes closer to the inside, which is important when you're number 9. I've never seen her win anything or sustain her running around the ground, though. She's been strictly a sprinter and had her 15 minutes at Mahoning a couple of years back. Early last year, I did Princess of the North, but she hung last time at a distance, and the winner looked to have some potential on paper. It was a higher tag than this, and this is a class drop. but you can so clearly see where her run just bottomed out after she turned for home there, Princess of the North, and she is a late running sprinter. And when she goes long, she just can't sustain. So I know it's an easy assignment, and potentially Tiergarten's going to come back to the field. It's possible, but I can't get on board with Princess of the North at a route of ground. I just can't do it, even though it was a higher claiming price and a higher condition last time. Best Virginia on the inside, 6-1. This is not a barn that, with all due respect, should ever be as low as 6-1 with that 1 for 63 record over the last couple of years. I don't think so. It's been away since November, tries to go around a ground. 5 for 7, part of the exact at Mountaineer. I don't care. She's a slow pace specialist, likes a 25, going around a ground. Might get sent from the inside first time back. I don't think she can even inconvenience Tiergarten, though. I don't think she's too low at 7-1. I think she's much too low, given the circumstances. So the field on the track now, and they'll drag the start for a while because that does boost the handle. It is a good thing Mountaineer has done. It's inconvenient, and I don't think it, but you can't blame them because it has worked out. For some reason, the algo guys, the computer handicappers, and the syndicates bet more if you give them more time. But since the machines think supposedly at the speed of light, I never understood why dragging the start helps the computer guys. I guess to hone in on our mistakes, maybe. Is that what it's about? Nobody drags the start like Caliente did on my time there back in the early 1980s. The Caliente swirl used to be infamous, where they'd go to the gate and just keep swirling around instead of loading in the gate. They wanted to squeeze every dime of American money right out of the mutual pools. And sometimes before the start of the 510, which was the original pick six jackpot at Caliente, they would come to the paddock like half an hour late and do a couple of laps around the track before they even went to the starting gate. So no track ever dragged the start like Caliente. Somebody put in the comments that the offshore money says Summer at the Shore is going to affirm his favorite here. And somebody else said the 6 is going to drift. The 6 is not going to drift 10-1 here. Believe me. So Gal Trainers run first and second there, and both those horses have been away from the races. You don't often see that at Mountaineer. The Mountain Main is strangely demanding at a distance for horses without benefit of prep there. Does anybody else think 9-2 is pretty bizarre for Best Virginia to take that much support out of a 1-for-63 barn, having not started since last November? I don't know. Was that inside money or something like that? And to boot, the horse got held up momentarily in traffic around the far turn. 6-horse missed the break, but still didn't run much at all on dirt. Just moved up for an obligatory challenge and then backed out. Vintage Sparkle with a 13 wins at Mountaineer. Couldn't quite make it 14. Still don't know why Silva chose to sell Vintage Sparkle. Do not know that at all. Good job by Melinda Sanders to have Best Virginia ready. First time back. I don't know if she still ponies horses or not. She used to. Just get on the pony and take them to the post a lot. Melinda Sanders. The winner came right up the inside, and Glory Hallelujah, for what it's worth, had an inside trip in race number 4. So 2 of our 3 main track races have gone to the one horse, and both those one horses got inside trips. And neither was favored. The 6th race, Betterfield, never 3's going a mile. $4,000 claimers. Some interesting forms here to sink our teeth into in this race. You can see where my race flow notes across the bottom there on my banner. I think one key to this race, Julie Stansberry, former, and I use that term advisedly, former assistant trainer to Eddie Clouston. Is she going to help Eddie's Moralito in here, who she was down as trainer on last time? I mean, is this really an entry behind the scenes? I don't know. But whatever the case, is she going to assist her former boss by calling a code red with Candy Street and asking an all-out send of Kevin Gonzalez to maybe compromise the speeds and set up for the pace stalking Moralito? Because if Candy Street doesn't go out and compromise Wings of God could be long gone here. It's pretty easy to ascertain that when you look at the past performances. So if they're playing teamsies here, Clouston and his former assistant trainer, Stansberry, and she calls the code red with Candy Street into the first turn. Candy Street is speed capable, has been on top or challenged for the lead at first call in some of those routes. But then again, Wings of God was sharp last time going short, and is probably faster than Candy Street, who does not show consistent speed. Not consistent speed. Wings of God here wired an allowance race going 2 turns at Mahoning, and Jamie Poole doesn't win a lot of races over there. Halted this one for 15 and got his payday. And that allowance has come down the ladder since then, for sure, as Wings of God was still in tough with Pupil, dropping down to 5, and then came back to run good to Big Producer. I like that race because Wings of God was wide on a pro rail track. So I was kind of disappointed in the next effort, even though he was as high as 8-1, because he had dead aim on a horse to put the brakes on Uncle William. And then the next 2, not really as good as they should have been from Wings of God. So he's not as good as he was, for sure. Jamie Poole's tough at Mountaineer, though, for certain. And it's tough to conceive of him not getting a win for $4,000 from a horse he won an allowance race with at Mahoning, which is not his stomping grounds. I think Wings of God's fate, and he has tailed off for sure. I think it might hinge on whether or not Candy Street is able to go out there and apply some pressure, which maybe would tilt the balance to number 2, Train and Trust, or even number 4, Moralito. Moralito was a visually impressive winner first time over the grounds. And that wasn't a bad field on paper. He made him look bad, though. Next time he comes back and he's 9-1, and I'll tell you why. Because the winner of that horse named the Chalk had been running well on allowances and plummeted all the way down to $4,000 on a really negative drop and came back lame and everything else, but went up and attended soft fractions and is a strong finisher. So Moralito was going to have a hard time getting by those leaders that were going at such a pedestrian clip up top at 25 and then 49 and 2. Maybe more help up front tonight for Moralito, who's got a chance, I think, to come in and win the never 3 condition and not be a one and done horse like a lot of shippers. Win a low condition, have to step up to a higher spot. It's built into the book, and then they can't do it. Number 2, Train and Trust makes this a really deep field. These 2K horses, they're kind of hit and miss. They will drop him down though. Ramon Prashado, he does this. He drops him down. Train and Trust. They're using a couple of out of the money efforts to jam him down to $4,000 here. Train and Trust. I don't know if this horse is better on turf, worse on turf when compared to dirt. That's a really sticky wicket. You'll get a headache trying to compare his turf form to his dirt form and factor in how good he was at the time. But anyways, Train and Trust on the class drop as a one-time winner on dirt. And if you revert to his Mahoning dirt races, then he could well win this for $4,000 because those were allowances. And again, this barn will drop him down aggressively and win races. So you can make a case for Train and Trust. Strong case for Wings of God, a case for Moralito. And Candy Street, I think, is maybe a role player here. Could have a part to play. So let's check out some of the comments here. My man Kenny Neely says, can Bailey's horse, the 8, finish here? Gemstone Warrior. Yeah, he was up close last time, had a real good trip as the splits were kind of pushed on. And he got first run on the horse that he beat, Semper Atticus, who came back to win big. And they kind of flatters Gemstone Warrior. But Semper Atticus would have beaten Gemstone Warrior by plenty if he wasn't so wide around the first turn last time. And he's not well drawn here, Gemstone Warrior. And I think he's going to have to work a lot harder for position here than he did last time, Gemstone Warrior. I'm not sure I see him as a likely repeater. If they're not sexy and they run slow, stepping up to the next tire condition sometimes makes them unlikely. But Kenny, you know all that stuff as well as I do. So I'm certainly not lecturing anybody here. Let's check some of the other comments out. Women always have inside money to blow. Okay, Steve, I hear you. Jerry says, hit the like and subscribe. Jerry, I call you friend, my man. Kenny said he got off his original ideas in the last race because he saw that as a comeback affair. Steve says he fudged and didn't bet to show or bet a horse to show instead of to win. As exact, it comes back $51. Peter Pan player says, you sold us on the mummy. I hope I sold you off the mummy. Don't come looking for me if you shell out $6 to watch it like me and Little Bear did last night. Please don't do that. Anthony, my man Anthony says the whole card is blah. Yeah. I just didn't have a good feeling about this card coming in. And I was upfront with you guys about that. There are going to be nights like that, guys. Believe me, there will be nights like that. Super Chat Insiders Club. Yeah, I'm not sure what that's all about. Guys. David Pittman said earlier, I already like Glory Hallelujah training at speed lengths. Good training, maybe. Yeah, the 2 furlong preps worked out. That won't usually work out, though, that 2 furlong thing, because very few trainers take a live horse and use that as a prep. But it's kind of a trend. It's kind of trendy this year. As Randy Bailey did it. And it worked out with that thing that he ran in that turf race, the second race tonight. You can see where he did it with Boston Loose, tuned him up in a series of 2 furlong races when he didn't have 2 furlong speed, and then got 5-1 when he ran him a bona fide 6 furlongs. And then tonight it worked for Langley with Cool Cat Mandu. So this angle's all of a sudden in the news, and also worked for Terry Craig or Wilford Brimley, aka Wilford Brimley with Glory Hallelujah. So I guess this is the new way to tune him up. Can somebody shoot me the Pirate score? Somebody who's lucky for me, because I got hundreds of dollars at stake on the Bucks to win 79 or more this year. Who went to the mound tonight? Was it Bubba Chandler from my beloved Buccos? Can somebody in the comments please shoot me the Pirate score? And thanks for joining me tonight, guys. Thanks very much. I start coming towards the track. I got a horse, by the way, I might make a serious bet on in race number 7, the 1 horse, no cash refunds I'm thinking about. Boy, I think a strong argument can be made here for Moralito, the 4, for Wings of God, the 3, and certainly for Train and Trust, who is the 2 and currently favored at 2-1. Plus, you have a possible pace participant in Candy Street who is as low as 7-2, despite 63 lengths worth of losses added up from the last 4 non-3 life claimers. I'm not sure I quite understand that. Just one outing since last February. They can get a lot out of a synthetic start. But this horse is supposed to like synthetics and is 0-5 on dirt. So who was making this horse 7-2? And would have to go through Wings of God to get the lead here. And thanks for posting, even though it's bad news for me that the Bucks are down 8-0, 8-0. So who went to the hill tonight? Bubba Chandler. And they stripped Carmen Mlodzinski of his starting job to keep Bubba in the rotation when Bubba was tanking. Was it Bubba Chandler tonight? Had to be, right? I think it was his turn. And I'm going to sweat bullets to get 79 wins out of this team. I can afford for them to go, what, 3 games or 4 games under 500 for the rest of the journey? And they may well do that too. Pirates getting pummeled. So my man Rex uses some alliteration there. Pirates get pummeled. You should have been a sports writer, Rex. They try to make me a sports writer for an online publication that I do a column now only about once a month for. And I said, no dice. Let me be a columnist and pick whatever I want to write about. So they agreed. And I've turned out, I think, some pretty interesting pieces. Some of my topics I'll regale you guys with are a little bit offbeat. My favorite was about products that are hard to open, which is a pet peeve of mine, drives me bonkers. You can kill yourself trying to open a bottle of ketchup. Yeah, somebody's calling me, I think, to tell me that my mic is off. My mic is off. Competitive race we just watched as the Stansbury horse did not get a hard send. And that certainly set Wings of God up there into even money. But Wings of God still succumbs to Train and Trust, who made a bold rail gambit through the middle of a slow-paced race. They're a very competitive field by bottom non-3 life standards. Thanks for calling me, Di. I realized that my mic was not on. Man, that was a tough race, very competitive race. Candy Street did not get sent on a code red, so Julie Stansbury had no desire to help Daddy out. Eddie Clouston there, her former boss. That's kind of interesting, huh? I thought it was really interesting. So all but one dirt winner tonight is safe ground, for whatever that's worth. Some of them maybe figure to win anyways. Check out the comments out here. And somebody said the Patterson's Perspective used to be really good on the Mountaineer website. Yeah, I used to write some hardcore handicapping stuff and some condemnation of the industry because I could rant a little bit. And my favorite was a somewhat whimsical one, but it was written seriously on the square. Maybe to be a little bit scary, The Darkest Mile, about a vampire racehorse that comes to Mountaineer to win the Mountaineer Mile with Deshaun Parker up. You know what I might do? I might type that into my website to where you guys could read it, or even send you a copy of The Darkest Mile. I've had offers to turn it into a graphic novel. And some of the other comments, Kenny Neely says, if the 3 keeps the rail, he's probably going to win. Yeah, for sure. Kenny, if the horse wasn't getting out a little bit, I don't know. And somebody named Chewy wants to bet me that the Pirates won't win more than the Reds' final total at the end of the year. I don't have any faith left in the box. I just root, Mr. Chewy. That should be Chewbacca for your picture, right? But it's not. It's that Evel Knievel for your picture. Evel Knievel reminds me of Robbie Knievel, who jumped 2 school buses at Mountaineer, and I saw him do it a few years back. Yeah, Oz Pereira was doing backflips in the crowd to entertain the crowd as Knievel zoomed up and revved up his bike. Pereira would backflip himself right into the big house when he tried to torch his wife's domicile and evaded the police in a Dukes of Hazzard type chase with his tricked up General Lee painted vehicle. Oz Pereira. Yeah, Robbie Knievel's got some stones, man. If you would stand there and look at those 2 school buses and think that this guy's going to jump over them on a motorcycle, almost unfathomable. You know what I'm thinking about doing? The first guest I want to have on my show is definitely Doug Salvatore, because he's an ace handicapper, and I really dig the guy. Nice guy. And Doug has consented a guest on the show with me some night. And once I set up the technology to do that, then I'm going to have him guest. And you know what? I am not averse to some of you guys guesting by remote if I can figure out how to work it technologically to where I could send you an invitation via StreamYard and split the screen. And at some point, I'll let some of you guys guest with me here in the dungeon doing the show. Thanks, Di, for having my back there, because I'm talking into a dead mic, which I've done more than once at Mountaineer too. Mentioned there's a horse I might bet on in here, no cash refunds, and I took that morning line price point to task, and my banner was never going to be 8-1, no cash refunds. What a good field this is. West Virginia bred starter 15s. Good field of horses here to go 6 furlongs. Even with just 4 starters, I dig this crew. Number 1, no cash refunds. The Charlestown horses always get first look in these restricted races. And this is a really good horse who at one point last year won 4 out of 5, did no cash refunds, put up some good speed figs. And this season was in super tough outside the program time before last. And those 2 other than allowance optionals with a 25 claiming price as well. Man, those come up tough. And that's not a West Virginia bred field. And then last time he's in a stakes at 123-1, and he fights against the winner who's got sharp early speed. So he's in good form coming in right now. There's no cash refunds. And I think the lead could be easy to come by unless Little Ruru, who's got a history of 4.5 furlong speed, so he could rediscover his quickness here out of the 6 furlong shoot, but he is better to do that. He sure wasn't sharp in either outing this year. He'd better rediscover his speed here at the longer 6 furlong distance. And this is listed in my race flow questions, my race flow notes. Can Little Ruru at the longer 6 furlong distance remember that he used to be a 4.5 furlong speed and thus keep no cash refunds? from completely controlling this field with his 7 furlong and 6.5 furlong strength right from the get-go. And those 6.5 horses from Charleston are always faster than you think when they run shorter sprints at Mountaineer. I think this horse is going to take a lot of beating. No cash refunds, not a walkover though, my goodness. And against Abundant Energy, who's 6 out of 11, who wins an allowance at Mahoning, where they don't write West Virginia breds, an allowance at Mountaineer, which was not a West Virginia bred, Byers mid-70s both times. And then they lose him for 12.5 when he runs down Rocket Angel, who's won like 20 races and got a soft lead there and just ran huge with the grain in his favor. Abundant Energy ran big to catch Rocket Appeal there. So this horse's aces. Although his most recent race makes me question him here just a little bit. Number 2, Abundant Energy. And I'll tell you why after I step aside for the post parade, just very briefly. Somebody said in the comments that the foreign money says no cash refunds is going to go really low here. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. I only observed that he's going to be lower than 8-1 when I took that price point to task in my banner there. Yeah, he could definitely get pounded late off those open allowances that weren't West Virginia bred. And then 123-1 speed dueling effort to lose by less than 3. And a West Virginia bred stakes, no cash refunds. He's in tough here. But he looks really tough too from that inside post position, no cash refunds. I don't think he could possibly lose this. I really don't. I don't think he's going to lose it, I should say, unless Little Ruru jumps up and flashes some of his old zip and keeps no cash refunds off the lead for at least several furlongs here. Abundant Energy, big numbers, wins outside the program, fantastic win percentage, a real up-and-comer apparently, but since being claimed for 12.5, he wins at 3-5 and worked really hard to win at 3-5. It's a good horse that he beat in Zealous Storm, but Zealous Storm displayed some ugly action, kind of stayed left lead through the lane and jabbed at the ground a little bit. And there was just a setup speed in there. The one horse in the last race, Remy's Gunsmoke, who had to come back to them. And I'm not sure that Abundant Energy really earned that 69 buyer. I'm not even sure it's for real. And I'm not afraid to downgrade him just a scotch off an apparently sharp win. Abundant Energy. It's one of my favorite moves as a player is to downgrade horses that are on hot rolls because maybe I don't like a little something about their most recent win, but definitely a player and the kind of horse, the kind of form that you would normally think would have a cakewalk against state restricted competition under this kind of a header. And what about Out of Sense on the outside at 2-1 back with Clouston? And look at some of the stuff he did outside the program last year. The likes of Jamming Cameron, misses by neck to him, Lord of Mischief, misses by a head to him. Runs an 82 buyer, high 70s and stuff. He's 10 years old, though, and just hasn't had the same verve, the same oomph this season. And he got out-kicked last time when the speech came back to him Out of Sense. But back with Clouston, and he is formidable to say the least when he's in with his own kind. He's gone such long stretches so successfully outside the West Virginia bred program. It's easy to forget that he is a West Virginia bred. Out of Sense. They really have played that card with him over the years, so I'm getting approval by getting Doug Salvatore, the good handicapper Doug Salvatore, to a guest here with me. Doug's really popular and has a good fan base of his own and is a very sharp handicapper. I didn't want to like him when he took my chair in Mountaineer, my downstairs seat and my show to boot. But he's a likable guy. He's been to the house about 4 or 5 times. We really hit it off. We became good friends. And yeah, I'm going to make a job one to get Doug to guest with me on the show. And if I can't figure out the technology for him to do it remote from Erie, uh, Doug's got an invitation to stay over in my domicile here. I got the room to put him up comfortably. And down the road, maybe some of you guys too, by remote too, and maybe sit in with me a little bit on the show. So I had to pass the way the price got crazy low on the horse that I like to win it there. No cash refunds. Did that horse jump a shadow or did he break down? Did he go a miss there? I couldn't tell. I really couldn't. They panned back to the front of the pack so fast, I could not tell. When I was trackside, I would know if he got carted off or even euthanized, no cash refunds, but I can't tell. When I'm sitting here, whatever the case, Abundant Energy just keeps winning, huh? He has taken 6 of his last 7, and his only blemish is that 4.5 furlong race at Charlestown. I don't know if that was so bad that Jay's thinking of, I don't have a stakes horse. By West Virginia bred standards, I'm not going to protect him. Or maybe Abundant Energy's got some issues behind the scenes there, but it seems like a lot of horse to lose for the 12-5. Abundant Energy made his own luck there by coming up inside Little Ruru. That was the trip I envisioned for no cash refunds, but instead it was Batista, much to his credit, who took the initiative there. And Abundant Energy can also come from off the pace. He's not the kind of horse that is going to be passed without a big fight when he's up there in the engine like that. So 5-2 on Abundant Energy. I'd be willing to bet you'll never see that price on him again at Mountaineer against fellow statebreds, huh? Somebody texting me with the fate of the one horse there. And somebody texted me something personal. Apologies, guys. So Banger says should not have been 5-2, and Chewy says have to check the chart to see what happened there. Dave says when you departed, thought Doug would do a credible job. He did a great job. Yeah. Well, Doug couldn't stay at Mountaineer though because his wife wanted him in Erie, wanted them to continue their life in Erie. So I get it. I understand. My wife's the boss too, believe me. She says jump and I say how high. Matt says one took a bad step. Yeah, I can't tell from where I'm sitting. You know what? I would think he might have jumped a shadow, but he's got to be used to running under the lights, huh? From Charlestown? Yeah, for sure. Chris says leaving Rhode Island from my house in Maine to escape the heat. It will be hot there, but I'm 1 mile from the coast in southern Maine and have pools in the resort. You are welcome to come, Mark. Much appreciated, my man, but I got things to do here. Much appreciated. So we got 7 down and 1 to go. I'm sorry that I wasn't too enthused about tonight's card, but I'm not going to fake opinions when I don't have them, guys. 5/8, 8th race, no-winners twice in 6 months. 3,200 claiming. So this is as low as they go at Mountaineer. This is a new low, a horseman-friendly tag, so they can keep earning with some of these steeds. They could even cut it for $4,000. So for 3,200, this isn't a bad field because we have a couple of horses in there that have won recently. Remy's Gunsmoke, Bazoo, Brother Sky, Cosilio, El Cardinal. So this race is just dripping sharp recent form. Joe Phillips wins time before last. Osprey wins last time. He pulls in right from the 11 post. Yes, he does. I'm not sure this is a deep closer's track, though. Remy's Gunsmoke's pretty quick and was in too tough last time with Abundant Energy and Zealous Storm, so we'll toss that one out. But he had a cakewalk the time before because once he gets the lead, there's nobody that could pass him, and they're Holy Saints like 15 years old, and this is strictly speed form. Plus, 1 or 2 of these could lean on him early, especially Bazoo. Bazoo can get the lead, even at 5 or 5.5. So those two could be gunning at each other out there in the engine. It's possible, huh? If you like one of the 2 of them to assert superiority to first call, and I'm not sure I do, then maybe that's the horse you want. Number 2, Don't Cross Jack. Strange runner. I know him pretty well. Had the speed form in Ohio at Mahoning, and then all of a sudden comes from off the pace and pulled it off rather convincingly on March the 16th. So when he pops up next time for $3,200 at the mountain, it's almost like they're trying to unload this horse. And they did unload him. And there's no jail time at Mountaineer. You can run back as quickly as you want for whatever you want. So I don't know, the 2.5 months away might be a bad rap on Don't Cross Jack, but could get a cozy trip close behind the pace, saving ground behind what could be embattled leaders. And Christopher Longston, he's had his name in the news lately. He's got a couple of winners this year, and one of those winners was coming off a long layup. So, and last night he had the one horse in the last race, pretty fit, right, to run big. So Don't Cross Jack's going to be fit, I would say, if he's sound enough to train. So normally I don't like the pattern, giving him away for $3,200, loses at 8-5, and then a couple of months off. But I could still make a case for him. El Cardinal, he just staggered across to beat Scratch Off, a stablemate of his who's not much horse. Given a month and a half to avoid the dreaded bounce is El Cardinal. El Cardinal's the kind of horse that used to need the lead to win, but can't keep trying and show some heart when he doesn't get the lead. But I've picked him in likely spots and never been really satisfied. Brother Sky used the Pro World Bias to win, by the way, on May the 24th. Next time at 14-1, he never had a chance there. Brother Sky, I don't like him in here. Joe Phillips on May the 24th, and I kick myself for this when he wins back by 5, was wide on that Golden Rail track and ran much better than it looked. So I should have been all over him with smart coverage to supply the weak speed on June 14th. I missed it. I'm still kicking myself because of it. Did not really come back to repeat that effort, though, in his next one, Joe Phillips. So the Courthouse Cove kind of controlled the lead there and stronger than the speeds Joe Phillips is in with tonight, although it hasn't really been much of an off-the-pace track, right? At least not in sprints to come from very far back tonight. Have we seen anybody win from way back at a sprint distance tonight or even run second doing that? There's Abundant Energy is right up for the lead, and Little Ruru keeps fighting tenaciously right up in the engine. Train and Trust made an early gambit, saving ground in that route race. I guess Best Virginia came from out of it. That's going around, and the grain's usually different at a route here than it is going short. Glory Hallelujah all the way on top, with a little bit of that chasing the whole way. And sometimes it's not just who wins, but who gets outfooted, chases, and still holds for second. So short time, but short time was 4-5, correct? I'm not going to say the track's biased, but you want some kind of a price on a horse that's going to have to come from pretty far back to win at 5/8 anytime. And I'm talking about Joe Phillips in this race. And they are still in the paddock there at 5 minutes to post, huh? For the last race, Super 5 carryover, $1,136. This wager just never took off. It just never happened for Mountaineer. I used to hate the thing. I absolutely hated it because I had to announce the carryovers, and nobody bets it. Nobody likes to bet it. So I'm checking out the tote right now. And the 11 horse is just 3-1 Osprey. Osprey with a Tampa background. Juan Pablo doesn't bring his best horses here from Tampa, believe me. Loses the Class Actor on May 5th. Class Actor had been away like a year and fought tooth and nail in front and still staved off Osprey. Next time, Smart Coverage. And Smart Coverage runs like twice a year at this stage of his career and came right back to Osprey. That's why Osprey was 3-5. I'm not sure he merits 3-1-ism here either. Osprey to come from behind, from the back half at least, at a mere 5 for a long distance, huh? Wanted to watch Classic Mo with his 24 wins, because 25 is like the new 50, because horses aren't as durable as they used to be, right? I don't think there'll ever be another 50 race winner. And I have been fortunate enough to have witnessed 3 of them, 50 race winners in person. Bill Strange, when he came here in the 1980s, literally couldn't lose with his Finger Lakes contingent, had 2 of them in tow. Silver Fur, who wasn't sexy, but was just a grinding wind machine, and the much sexier, flashier, and better Sagely, who I think won 42 times after he turned 8 Sagely. I can recall when Bill Strange wins a claimer with him going short like 5.5, and then runs him right back in a starter at a route and wins again with Sagely, who was wiring $7,500 claimers at Finger Lakes back when $7,500 was a hefty claiming price at a place like Finger Lakes, and was wiring them, I think at 15 years old, 14 or 15 years old with Sagely. I could be wrong about that. I think he was like 14 when he was doing that. Sagely was an incredible racehorse who had what they termed the look of eagles. And there was a lot of heart and a lot of class. The other 50 race winner that I was privileged to witness, I watched him run a lot of times, End of Street. And End of Street was a very good horse. He was then Waterford Park, which is now Mountaineer-based runner, was End of Street. Merle Booth was his trainer. Do some of you old timers remember Merle Booth, who was an ace conditioner and left to get in the construction trade and become a contractor at some point? But he was just a superlative horseman, very skilled. And End of Street, who he won like 50 races with. But back then, Waterford Park was self-contained, and the same horses ran against one another week after week after week after week. So I would not put his milestone quite on par with that of a Silver Spur or a Sagely. But I have watched 3 50 race winners, and I am darn sure I will never witness another one or see their likes again. My wife is off tonight for the first time in a long time. And Little Bear and I, for a change, won't have to subsist on cheap TV dinners or take out pizza. I can smell something good wafting down the basement steps, even as we speak. And yeah, her first night off, I do put her to work. Yeah, I do. And when she leaves to go to work, my admonition to her is, do work, lady, do work. I am probably not going to bet this race. Because again, true to my word, I didn't really have any strong opinions to sink my teeth into tonight. And the one horse that I did like a lot was just too low. No cash refunds. Hopefully tomorrow we can find something to bet on. Last time was really good. I made a ton in my personal account, and I think pointed you guys towards some value winners. Tonight just didn't shake down that when I warned you going in. It was just not going to happen. I did not like the card. I hope you guys did. Hope you made some money. Anyways, much appreciate you guys tuning in. Very much. If you're on board and watching me, please subscribe. It helps me. And hit the like button. 98 degrees tomorrow. And I mentioned at the outset of the night's show that a good friend of mine who was an esteemed chief steward in the whole state of Ohio and still works with HISA told me that she could never pin them down on any parameters for temperatures that were permissible to run in. They look a lot at the heat index. It's going to be 98 tomorrow. I guess there's a good chance Mountaineer will run. It's not supposed to rain. But stay tuned, because I can't recall my home track racing when it got quite that hot in the past. Mid-90s, yeah, 94, 95, yeah. 98, when the temperature could well top out at triple digits. Might be a different deal. So I guess we shall see what we shall see, right? Anyways, gots to scoot upstairs, enjoy my first home-cooked hot meal in quite some time. Thanks for joining me. Mark Patterson out.